It's a valid question that you've probably asked if you're in any way interested in space, the universe, or science. Even as kids, we looked up in the sky at strange blinking lights and figured it might, maybe, just be aliens. And we watched movies and TV shows like The X-Files, E.T., Men in Black, and Independence Day, and wondered if any of it could be true. However, we never saw it come true. But a paper on the Fermi Paradox takes a new approach to answer the question of why haven't we found aliens yet? In 2018, a team of researchers at the University of Oxford brought a different approach to the question of are we alone in the universe? Anders Sandberg, Toby Ord, and Eric Drexler from the Future of Humanity Institute, or FHI, released a paper that year that attempts to solve what is called the Fermi Paradox. Going back further for a moment, in 1950, Enrico Fermi was discussing with his colleagues the existence of alien life and asked the immortal and simple question, where is everybody? Later, in 1961, physicist Frank Drake looked at the problem of the apparently lifeless universe and developed a mathematical equation to help solve it. The equation attempted to find the number n of intelligent species within the boundaries held by various factors. In the case of our location, the Milky Way galaxy was used, of course. R represented the rate of the formation of stars that could allow for intelligent life to develop on nearby planets. Fp describes the fraction of those that have planetary systems. Lowercase ne is the number of planets in a system with the right environment. Fl is the fraction of those that do sustain life. Fi is the fraction of those on which there is intelligent life. Fc is the fraction of intelligent civilizations that lived long enough to develop comms tech, and L is the length of time those civilizations produce comm signals before they die out. These numbers were broken down further using the Kardashev scale that would split life forms into 3 categories based on the level of energy a civilization would be able to harness. And it's from these that the true paradox was born. The Milky Way is about 10 billion years old and 100,000 light years across, which means that if an alien race had the technology to travel at 1% of the speed of light, the entire galaxy could have been colonized over 1,000 times by now. So why haven't we heard anything? Organized ignorance. Since we already managed in the last 70 years to get to the moon, sent a probe outside the solar system and sent billionaires into space for the fun of it, the paradox has only become more prominent. One of the problems is the value of L from the Drake equation, because it is hard to define how long a civilization really lasts. On one hand, you could look at the Romans, or ancient Egyptians, and gauge that a civilization only lasts a few hundred years. But then you could also argue that if a species achieves interstellar travel, it could last for millions, if not billions of years. This means that any result from the Drake equation's reliability is based entirely on the temperament and optimism of the person using it. SET co-founder and astronomer Jill Tarter described this problem in the best way possible to National Geographic back in 2000, explaining that the Drake equation is a wonderful way to organize our ignorance. Since then, scientists have used their best objective estimates of conservative, medium, and exaggerative values with the Drake equation and taken averages, but there has still been no answer for why we haven't encountered aliens in a galaxy so old. So is it back to the drawing board? Well, not exactly. In their paper, Dissolving the Fermi Paradox, the FHI researchers criticized the methods used by explaining that they almost always produce values of n that are far higher than they should be, and that this is the reason for the apparent paradox. The problem is, having a few point estimates run through the Drake equation is not an accurate representation of our actual knowledge. An example describes 3 scientists who have different opinions of L. One believes L is between 1 and 10, another thinks L is between 10 and 100, and the third thinks L is between 100 and 1,000. If you average all the possible values between 1 and 1,000, you'll find that the third scientist's opinion is favored 90 times more, because they have the largest range of integers in their hypothesis. To get around this, the FHI researchers represented the full range of possible values using a logarithmic scale. They ran millions of simulations in order to get more reliable statistical results for the value of n, and then applied a practice known as a Bayesian update to those results. In short, they added the information that we have never discovered any aliens yet, because the lack of any evidence is, in this case, also evidence. This two-step process produced some concrete, if slightly depressing, results. Based on our current state of knowledge of the universe and biology, there is between a 53 and 99.6% chance that we are the only civilization in the Milky Way. Further, there's between a 39 and 85% chance that we're the only civilization in the known universe. If there are any other intelligent species out there, then based on these results, we will never be able to find or communicate with them. Seriously? No one? It's worth pointing out after that bombshell that the paper is not in any way making a definitive claim about the existence or non-existence of life on other planets. These outcomes are simply the result of factoring in our own ignorance to avoid paradoxical results. If a spaceship were to suddenly land in the front of the White House tomorrow, then those possibilities would fall to zero as soon as the new data was added, assuming they were friendly and didn't enslave us. Still, the results have certainly made some noise, and that became doubly true as the self-appointed poster boy for making Star Trek a reality, Elon Musk, tweeted them out and urged that we must become a spacefaring civilization and spread to other planets. There have been criticisms of the paper, with it being called anthropocentric and narrow-minded, with some even suggesting it intends to make an argument for human exceptionalism. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. The reason these experiments even happened is because of our hesitance to accept any exceptionalism in ourselves. Since we are here, and we are sentient, and in possession of higher brain functions, enough so to even ask the questions, surely we can't be the only ones. Since we exist, other intelligent life must too, surely. Well, no, not so surely it seems. Despite our most desperate hopes that we are not alone in the universe, that alone does not make life ubiquitous. The likelihood of life out there somewhere remains as vague and vast as a range from 1 in 2 to 1 in a quintillion. So what now? Whether you believe that we are alone or you're sure we are not, the simple fact that we could be all alone here raises major questions, both scientific and philosophical. Are we the greatest thing in the known universe, or a freak accident? Should we be excited or disappointed? What about the environmental questions, as plenty of sources attempt to demonstrate a depletion of resources here on Earth? One thing is for certain, we are, for the first time in known history, able to control our own destiny. We figuratively hold the future of the human species in our hands. If we were to consider for a moment the concept that we are the only intelligent species in the universe, then what should we do? It would then surely be our responsibility to spread as far and wide as we can, discover as much of the universe as we can, and propagate as much as possible. Perhaps instead of creating weapons of mass destruction and worrying about virtual reality internet, instead of making social media posts and sitting staring all day at smart devices, we should be developing the technology to get out there into the universe and seek out whatever is out there. It's fair to say that if we are one of only a handful of sentient, intelligent species in the universe, or even if we are the only one of this type, then every single one of us here on this blue planet today holds an incredible and awesome responsibility to future generations to be the best that we can be. The future of the human race could be something that shapes the future of everything on a truly astronomical scale. Do you believe that there is life out there? Or do you agree that it's more like we are alone or one of only a few forever out of reach of each other? Put your propositions in the comment section and proceed to the typical protocol. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and share. For another Space Infinity journey, click on this video.